You know, I don't want to be ultra negative, but I didn't see anything like that stood out to me as this guy's definitely an NBA player. I think Bassey and Reed can fill in 10 minutes at the backup center position for Joel just because of their rebounding ability and their athleticism, their youth, and their defensive ability. And maybe Paul Reed, you know, learns not to foul every 36 seconds. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't blown away. I'm getting more towards the let's like sign some veteran minimum guys and move in that direction on a win now mode. It sucks to say, but you know, Isaiah Joe at 6'4", 165. I just saw he's listed at. Is he really listed at 165?
Yeah, I guess so.
Now that I think about it, like I just can't picture an NBA player being 6'4", 165. Tyrese Maxey's 6'2", 205. You're telling me Tyrese Maxey weighs 40 pounds more than Isaiah Joe? So, yeah, nobody really blew me away.
All right, that's
Hopefully
fair.
you're more positive.
I mean, you know, to put it in, like, perspective, you know, we're not really sitting here analyzing the Summer League like we need this guy to step up. We need this guy to be, you know, a gem, right? Because we do have championship aspirations. We're in a championship window. So really, we're just looking for maybe a couple guys to pick up rotation spots. I'll also be honest, like I didn't even watch the last couple games. I just got tired of it. I saw what I needed to see. You know, my one takeaway is that Paul Reed, you know, is obviously levels above the G League, and I feel like he's somewhere in between the NBA and the G League. Like he needs to continue to develop. Paul Reed was an absolute menace. You know, he played early on, and that was it. I liked what Isaiah Joe did. I thought he took more of a leadership role. I thought, you know, he's putting the ball on the floor more, which is definitely a bright sight. But like you said, you know, he needs to get into NBA shape. But he showed signs, and to me, he showed the same signs he showed last year, like a guy that could step in, and if you need him to, when given the opportunity, can hit a couple shots. Other than that, though, you know, I feel as Sixers fans, I say this a lot, we say this, like we overvalue guys a lot. And, you know, a lot of people were on the Bassey train. I mean, he's an exciting prospect. You got him in the 50s, right? Looks like he could be a big shot blocker one day. But let's be honest, again, we're in championship mode, right? You look at Andre Drummond, who got signed for $3 million a year with the Chicago Bulls, and you're starting to think to yourself, like, the Sixers couldn't pull that deal off, right? I mean, Daryl Morey's had a great offseason. But I'm looking at some of these centers and even some guys that are available. Like right now, if you ask yourself, do you trust Charles Bassey to be the backup center on a championship ready team? I don't know the answer to that question. I have to see it more. And I think we're going to have to play these young guys. Daryl Morey, as we've said, is literally forcing the hand of Doc Rivers. But, you know, this was an opportunity. We talk a lot about guys taking advantage of opportunities. Like Bassey didn't come out and really jump off the screen for me. So, you know, he's still developing. He's got to get better. Maybe Paul Reed can take some of those minutes. But again, he's a little bit too small as well. So I think one glaring thing we need to keep our eye on is the backup center position. And other than that, I thought a couple guys showed some potential, but they'll likely be in the G League. Personally, I think Isaiah Joe will make the roster, and I think Paul Reed obviously will make the roster. And I think you have to put Bassey on there. Other than those three, I don't know any other givens in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. Like I just think you're right about overvaluing, and people are watching this G League or this Summer League stuff, and they're really some people are taking it way too serious. I just the way people are talking about the performances is as if Isaiah Joe was out there dropping 50 points or dropping 35 a game. Like clearly an NBA scorer playing in the Summer League dropping, like he wasn't, you know, he averaged 16 and a half points per game in the Summer League. It wasn't that crazy to me. He shot good numbers, good efficiency. And yeah, if you're talking, you know, versus Korkmaz, I'm Isaiah Joe all day. You know, but nobody blew me away, and I was kind of underwhelmed by Charles Bassey. I just thought I would see more of an offensive arsenal from Bassey. But you know, it is what it is, and I think I'm right with you on who makes the team. So there's to start the season, there's 15 roster spots and two-way contracts. Am I correct about that? So that leaves you with 17. And I think, you know, it'll be I looked at it so many times trying to figure out the math by myself. Maybe you or someone in the chat can help me out, but I think it's probably going to be a toss-up between guys like Trevelyan Queen, uh, Isaiah Joe, Jaden Springer. It'll be a toss-up between like end-of-the-bench guys of who's on the two-way contracts and who's in the G League. And I'm sure we'll get into that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think we overvalue what we're seeing in the summer league a little bit too much. You have to really imagine what they look like on the NBA level.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I also have to look into the two-way contracts. I believe Trevelyan Queen is a guy that could be, potentially signed with that. And he was already signed with a deal, but I believe Trevelyan Queen will probably bounce back and forth between the NBA and the G League. I just, I saw a lot of turnovers from Trevelyan Queen. I don't think he's ready yet. I thought, again, he showed flashes. But I'm really looking at the guys that have been up here, last year. And when I look at Jaden Springer, that was the one guy again. Like I just don't see it. I talked about this last week, the week before. Like I just don't see any way of him making the team at all this year. And it sucks because that's a first round pick. That's a guy who, if you draft well, could be a contributor on this team who's trying to win. But yeah, I didn't really see anybody else that I think is an instant day one given. I think Reed will be there. I think Bassey will be there. And honestly, if I have to speak looking into the future, like you said earlier, I think we might go out and get another player or two, right? We, even have a few more spots now. I think we, obviously we would have to get down to 15, but we have, a little bit of cap space with James Harden's discount with the official terms coming out. We might be able to get a backup center for very cheap. And you might have to explore those options.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at the summer league type of players, the level they're at, and you picture them joining this Sixers NBA team and contributing, you look at like what role would these players play, and it's most likely a catch and shoot role. You know what I mean? If they're getting on the floor in staggered lineups of Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Joel Embiid, maybe in certain instances, depending what Doc Rivers does, which is always pretty much unpredictable. But it's always going to be pretty much a catch and shoot role. So which guys are catch and shoot? Yeah, Isaiah Joe is. You don't want him to try to be creating his own shot really in the NBA. I just don't think he's physical enough to do that consistently off the bench. But catch and shoot, last year I say it a lot. We had a spurt of games where we were shooting 17% on wide open threes, which is a ridiculous number for NBA players. And Isaiah Joe can make wide open threes. So I see roles for certain guys, definitely, and I think Paul Reed and Bassey, and I think Isaiah Joe is probably the closest for me to having some sort of NBA role. Unfortunately, Jaden Springer, I'm not seeing really an NBA role for him at all. I think he's undersized for how he plays. I think he plays very physically. He uses his athleticism and kind of jumps into people and plays real physical, and I don't think that translates into the NBA very well. I think he'll basically get his shot blocked into the third row trying to play like that against NBA talent. So I'm not seeing the floor stretching ability I think that Jaden Springer would need to fit into a role on this squad. He just doesn't like naturally catch and shoot the ball. He naturally catches it and just drives hard and jumps and hangs and gets the and one, and that works in the summer league sometimes, but is it I don't think he can do that in the NBA, at least right now. I think he needs to develop more of a consistent perimeter game, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other guys that I thought played decent in the summer league, Grant Ryler, Cassius Winston. Unfortunately, we just don't have spots for those guys. They're more kind of like pure point, IQ players, a little bit older. We just don't have the room for them. One other guy that I'll mention is Philip Petrusev. I think he's still going to, stay overseas. He's a monster shot blocker, though. If he could develop, any type of offensive game, because honestly, he was kind of touted as a bit of a shooter coming out of college. If he could develop more of an offensive game, you never know what could happen. He's a little bit bigger, I believe, than Paul Reed. And he kind of impressed me. But again, it was just on the defensive side of the ball. We know how that story goes. I don't think he'll end up making it.
Yeah, and because Jaden Springer was drafted in the first round, he is on a rookie guaranteed contract, so you can't really just I mean, the smartest thing to do would be to throw him in a trade package, something like that, than to just cut him and take that salary hit.
Perfect.